Welcome to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners via St. Martinga Radio 107.9 FM, respective radio stations island-wide, Tel TV Plus Channel 15, and online viewers. I'm Rolika Roach, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Dr. Luc Marcelina, to address you. Prime Minister Marcelina, you have the floor.
Good morning, St. Martin. Good morning to representatives of the press, of the media, and of course, good morning to my colleague ministers sitting here, and also good morning, of course, to the people of St. Martin. First of all, I think it's our first press briefing of 2025, and I would like to make use, of course, of this opportunity to extend my heartfelt New Year greetings to all of you, to the people of St. Martin in general, wishing everybody health at the first place. I think, seeing my background, I remain believing in health as a priority to move on in life. And I wish everybody great progress, resilience, and of course shared success for the future. And in general for country St. Martin, I'm counting on everyone sharing this country, for unity, for collaboration, for keeping the trust in our democracy, in our country, and for us to move forward in a constructive way. For one day, we have the St. Martin that we all envision and dream of. So this government is counting on its people for us to be constructive with our country. I have also a special appeal to the people of St. Martin for us to maintain the mindset change that I'm experiencing in this country. There is a positivism going on in this country that in the past years we did not experience. People are more positive, more constructive, and everybody is more in unity with each other. And I think these are great pillars to propel prosperity in the nearby future for country St. Martin. I would like to thank you, and please hold on to that soul spirit for us to be successful with our country. Further, I would like to make some small statements because I was very interested about how did St. Martin pass its change of year from 2024 to 2025. And of course, as a doctor, the first thing I'm concerned of is how did many accidents happen in the year change, especially with fireworks. And I have had contact with the hospital, and there were no incidents of severe firework accidents for the people of St. Martin's. I'm very thankful to God that that did not occur. And further, there were also no burn wounds. Often you see the combination firework with burn wounds. That was not the case this year, so I'm very, very happy that our people were spared of those incidents this year. At the other side, we have the fatal accidents in traffic that took place this year. And as a government, we are very, very worried with this development, realizing already that we lost some lives with accidents on the roads of St. Martin, not only in a vehicle accident, but also motorbike accidents. Especially the motorbike accidents are becoming a great concern for country St. Martin. And I'm just giving follow-up to the front page of our newspaper of this morning, in which we see that already the KPSM is initiating what we are planning to actually do in the coming months for St. Martin. They started already with actually crushing the motorbikes that has been confiscated in the past. And that is the first step that we have in moving forward with what we have to do as a government to prevent what is going on now with all those accidents. And we started now through the Ministry of Justice with the request for us to start crushing the motorbikes. There are more than 100 motorbikes are being crushed, as the article also states in the newspaper. And it serves to show the community that we are really serious about destroying those motor vehicles that are not appropriate to be used on the roads. And secondly, we are making space for the action plan that we have in the nearby future to be aggressive on the roads, because this government will not tolerate what we all are experiencing in this country at this particular moment, with the irresponsible behavior of the scooter riders. Unfortunately, that they want to have this dangerous behavior in traffic, I will have to settle with that because that's their choice. What I cannot settle for is that they become a danger for the other users, innocent people that do adhere to the traffic rules and regulations. So we will have to have the warning towards them, informing them about the consequences of being involved in a motorbike accident. I think everybody knows that, but we have to still continue informing the youth about the dangerous situation that they can bring themselves in, especially with their health. But on the other side, we have a responsibility too as a government to protect the other users on the road. And that's why we're going to have a very proactive, active approach on the roads to see how we can get a better control of the misuse and the abuse by the scooter riders here on the island. And actually, we have to go to a no-tolerance approach because this is getting out of hand in St. Martin. It's not good for our safety. Tourists are getting problems with it. Our own citizens have already problems with it. So we think we have to be very aggressive and proactive. And the proactiveness is already that we started with the crushing of the bikes that have been confiscated in the past period. I would like, by the way, to thank the KPSM for their contribution and their commitment for us to realize our approach toward the motor riders this year. Secondly, we spoke about the disaster reserve fund. We are going to really make it a project. It will take some while though, but we are going to really work on the disaster reserve fund for us to have a good fund for in the future, because as you know, we are all exposed to the climate changes of the world actually, and we will have to have a buffer one of the other way for seeing how we can cope with the consequences of a climate hazard. So in this case, we will have to have a disaster reserve fund at place. We are working on it, and we're going to get back the reflows from the airport, and we will use that to deposit in the disaster reserve fund for us to have creation of a buffer to be able to manage with the consequences of, for example, a hurricane that hopefully we will not get. I think for now, that is what I wanted shortly to further for the energy side of the story. As we know, we now have a stabilization of the supply of energy on the grid for St. Martin. You have to realize that when I started in office, it was a national crisis of energy deficit for the consumers. So we came from having almost a very unstable or no energy for the country, momentum of blackouts and severe load shedding. We came in approximately 6 to 8 months. We managed to stabilize the grid for the people of this country. I think this is a great achievement. Although all the panic that we had, the government stayed focused and did what he had to do. The next phase that we are going to go through now is see how we can make the energy supply sustainable for consumption for the users of this country. And of course, we have already the good news that we have received the loan that we have negotiated in those hectic months that passed us by trying to control the consequences of the crisis. We didn't only stabilize back the grid, but we also, while the hecticness was going on, this government was able to secure a amount for the purchase of the grid generators that we rely on for the future, for the sustainability. And we are talking in total about an amount of 75.6 million that we got as a loan from the government of the Netherlands on our request to move forward with making sure that we have sustainability for the energy supply for the people of Sint Maarten. I think these are great moments, although all the critics that we have received, in 6 months, 8 months, we were able to stabilize back the grid. And we were even able in those 6 to 8 months, which this government is very proud of, to already have this amount of capital deposited on our accounts, ready to move forward for the guaranteeing of sustainability of energy for the future. We have to actually do this in phases to make sure that it goes in a responsible and transparent way, and that we get what the people of Sint Maarten deserve. That is what I have to share with you this morning.
Thank you, Prime Minister Marcelino, for your opening remarks. Given that Prime Minister Marcelina is leaving for another meeting, we will allow the question and answer session to commence. Bibi Hadshaw of SMN News, you have the floor.
Good morning, Relaika. Happy New Year to you and the staff of CoM. Good morning, ministers.
Thank you.
And the same to you. Happy New Year's.
Thank you very
as
much.
we commence 2025. To kick off my questions, you just mentioned that you secured a loan of 76.5 million. 0.5 million, I think you said?
75.6
75.6 million.
Antillian guilders.
Guilders, that's
Antillian
what I wanted to know.
yes.
Guilders.
Yeah.
Are there conditions to this loan? I also would like to, as we continue with GEBE, while you were able to stabilize the grid, congratulations. The question I have for you, Prime Minister, is the management team. We are over 4 years without a management team.
Yes, incredible. Very long. Eh? More than 4 years,
you
by the way.
had 2 recruitments already done.
Yes.
Can you tell us, you have
course.
some names that were given to by the SBOT.
Yeah.
When are the management team going to be appointed, or will there be a new recruitment drive?
Yeah.
And also,
Bibi,
the
let's
Parliament of
allow-
Sint Maarten has given a motion to provide relief for the people of Sint Maarten. Can you give us an update on that also?
Yeah. Okay. The first question is, you have to realize that in the past 6 to 8 months, there was a national crisis in this country. And I just explained what we could achieve in this short period of time. Secondly, of course, and thank God you said it yourself, the apparatus, the entity government had more than 4 years already to do something with management of GB. Seeing already what I have achieved, of course, this is the focus of attention for this government, for sure, to fill in the C positions. We are busy now in the last phase of finalizing the legal framework to appoint the candidates. We are finalizing that before having the discussion on the names that have been proposed, and for privacy reasons, until now, I will not dismantle any name at this particular moment, because these are very sensitive discussions. It has a significant impact for the company and also for the community, for the country. So I think if we could have waited 4 years, I think we can wait, realizing that I had a good excuse that we had to actually control the crisis first. So that is now under control. And of course, it has my my attention now that is now the second step that we are approaching, and next to what we have done in the last 6 to 8 months, that has been collaterally given attention to also. But we are now in the last phase of the legal framework discussion, and from there on we're going to move on. That was one question. The second question was, yes, before that, the conditions of the, I will not, first of all, there are some conditions, but not related to the loan. Conditions of the loan that you asked me about, conditions of the loan, I can give it to that, but I have to share it still with the Council of Ministers. But these are common, normal answers to questions on a loan. There are actually two conditions. It has to be, the loan will be 25 years, and the interest percentage will be 2.43%. Will never be found on the market such a low interest rate. So I'm very proud that I could get a loan to help my country, our country, with only 2.43% interest rate. I'm very, very proud of that. Very difficult to get it on the international market. And the third one is that we are working still on, because this continues to be a challenge for quality of life of the people of St. Martin, is of course the energy price, the price of the invoices of GEBE for the people of St. Martin. As you know, we have mandated the BTP, St. Martin, in collaboration with their background support, the BTP of Curaçao, that have done it for very successful for Curaçao, and we mandated them to look into the possibility of mitigating the end price of the energy that we are selling it to the people of St. Martin, and a big contribution in that energy consumption price is, of course, the fuel clause, and BTP is completely mandated to negotiate the fuel clause also with all the stakeholders. And until now, for us, stakeholders are those contributing for the fuel clause for years already. That is 7Cs for the delivery of water, the harbor. It is two. The tax office, of course, GEBE itself. These are those stakeholders that we are discussing with to make sure that everybody throws a little water in the wine to control the price for our people of St. Martin that are going through some very realistic challenges at this particular moment. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Emily of Island Nature Radio, you have the floor.
Sorry.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
Yes.
Happy New Year. So to some of the statements that you made in particular about GB, you said the loan has been received. Does that mean the money has actually been sent to St. Martin, or that it's been allocated?
No,
the government will then need to have an agreement with GB in terms of the purchasing of generators and what the payment terms look like, and if government is going to put conditions on GB. So if you could explain that in a little bit more detail.
Very good.
And one other thing is you mentioned that you're setting up this disaster reserve fund. So from the reflows of the airport. So if you could explain that for the people a little bit more clearly. And are you going to continue with the CRIF insurance, which is the parametric insurance that government has, I guess, funded out of the World Bank monies in the past? The CRIF, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You ask if we have the money already. The answer is yes. We have the money ready on our accounts. That's the first question. The second question is, we get the loan, we have the capital, we have the money on our account, and we are going to make an agreement now with GEBE to for them to be able to purchase the generators. It's going to be in a collaboration with GB, but they're going to be very evident agreements, conditions from government towards GB And at the end of the day, the idea is not only to rent them, but to make it in a construction of a rent to owe. Because we have to help GEB too, that they paid enough, that at a certain moment they have it, that they can continue to make it a healthy company. So there will be, of course, conditions from the side of government, but we are working at this particular moment on the conditions, because it's quite complicated to guarantee, of course, a good agreement that all parties can adhere to in meeting their obligations in the payback. And especially because it's money of the people we are using, it has to be important that it goes in a transparent way with a lot of check and balances, with, at the end of the day, the bigger aim to make sure that sustainability of energy supply is guaranteed for the people of this country. So we are working now on the conditions, coincidentally now, before we get into the deeper negotiation with GB about the conditions, how we now are going to offer them the money for the purchase of the generators. And even in the phase of the purchasing, also the government will stay involved to make sure that it goes in a transparent way. Using the contabiliteitslandsverordening, for example, is very important. Okay? Thank you. Pardon?
The disaster recovery fund. So sorry.
Yes, for me to explain how that works. Yeah.
And,
so
and
actually,
just for a clarification, GB has issues with the hack, with their billing.
Yeah.
Will one of the conditions from government be about improving their financial administration?
Yes, of course. Of course, yes. Concerning the reflows for the disaster reserve fund, to build a buffer to be able to deal with the consequences, negative consequences of, for example, hurricane and nature disasters. The whole idea was that we got money from the trust fund. That money we accepted with gratefulness from the Dutch people. And we use that money and we give it out in a loan to the airport for their reconstruction. Because it's in a loan, you have to pay an interest rate in your payback agreement with government. And with that paying back, there is an interest part of it that actually makes, at the end of the day, the money that you loan more than it was originally. And that difference that we gain with the interest part that we make money with of the loan, that part is the one that we are going to put in the disaster reserve fund, but also the loan as such. So if we have borrowed money to the airport, we're going to get the money back, but we're going to get interest on top of it too in all those years that they're paying back. And all that money is going to go in the disaster reserve fund. Okay.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank
Judy
you.
Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald. She also has a question for you.
Judy, you still have?
Thank you so much. A very good morning to you, Prime Minister,
Yeah.
Minister ECYS, colleagues. Prime Minister, I'm also going to stay on the topic of GB. Last year, you had made a proposal to change the 3 rent-to-own generators, the 7 containerized generators that we currently have on rent-to-own, to change that into a lease-to-own.
Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned that at this forum. I'd like to know what is the status of that proposal, because the 3 months is already up and we're still using those generators, I assume. So I'd like to know the status of that proposal and what is going to happen to the generators. And can you kindly provide us with a timeline on when government expects to purchase these new generators? I know you have to go through the negotiations, but what is your timeline?
Okay.
And what is the timeline also for BTP to complete its assignment? Because I know everyone is looking forward to those lower utility bills. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, starting with GB, with the first immediate measure, 10 1 megawatt containerized generators you're talking about. These ones are lease generators. Initially, because that I was scared about the increase of consumption in the high season with Christmas, with the mega yacht, with the occupation rate of the hotels, I anticipated already before that time to inform GBGB, consider that the consumption can be more than what we are experiencing now already. I proposed to them to look into the possibility, if necessary, to see if we cannot make the deal from lease to a lease to own to keep them. They made their research, and after receiving the 20 extra megawatt that are leased to own, these are at the end of the day, they're going to be from GEBE, those containers. They informed me that it's not necessary for them to extra purchase the 10 megawatt that they leased initially. So at the end of the day, we're going to keep the 20 that came in the second batch, the short-term solution. The immediate was the 10, the short-term was the 20. And they decided that it's not necessary. It sounds very, very attractive, of course, to keep them, but you have to realize also that it costs a lot of money and it has to be financially feasible for GEBE too. So what we did, though, to guarantee a stability of the grid for St. Martin, we extended for 1 extra month the 10 megawatt that we had initially. We had rented them for 3 months, and at the end of the day, we added an extra month to it to make sure that in Christmas we are not going to get ourselves in a calamity, and I think that is a very wise decision to do. And we could have experienced also a stability of the grid in the season, in our season.
So they're going to be going back.
These are going to go back. The first 10 are going to go. The other 20 that arrived on second time, these ones are going to stay. Okay?
I have 2 clarifications that I asked also, BTP and the timeline on the purchase of the new generators.
Yeah, this negotiation for the fuel, for the energy price actually that the consumers are paying for is a very complex analysis. It's not something that you go to GB and say, can you lower this for me? Give me a little 2 cents discount on a liter here. It doesn't go like that. It's a very complex process. At the end of the day, you have to do a good analysis, and then you come in the phase after knowing what every stakeholder can contribute to. You have to start negotiating now with them too. It's not the fact that you think that the harbor can do something that means that you have to still go and discuss it with them and tell, okay, this is what we think the study has give us as clarification, and we have an idea what your margins are. Can we sit now and negotiate? So it was very difficult in the beginning to get immediately an agreement of the end date, but we both the government, BTP, and also the stakeholders are fully aware that this is of high urgency for the people that are suffering in St. Martin. So we're going to continue monitoring it, because the earlier we can have an agreement or a solution for that, the better it will be for everybody. So this is not something that is going to drag forever. We have to come to an end conclusion. First know what is going on, what everybody's contribution is to form the price of energy, sit with them in the second round, and then negotiate with them what can all stakeholders do in giving some relief for us to have an end product that is a little more less expensive to sell to the people of St. Martin. Okay.
Thank you, Prime Minister. One more question. Stephen Cerulean of PJDT Radio, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Colleagues, good morning. Prime Minister, good morning to you. Minister of ECYS, good morning to you as well. If I may take you away from the topic of GB, Prime Minister, I think you're best suited to answer the question in relation to health matters. Recently, I think it was on the 27th of December, the Secretary General for the United Nations sounded the alarm, basically saying that all nations need to prepare themselves in case of a pandemic or epidemic. I'm sure you have taken note of that statement recently. We saw the press release coming from the former Minister of ESA basically sounding the alarm in regards to possible pandemics. The Member of Parliament, the Weaver, spoke of the need to establish a special fund to deal with such in case of. What sort of preparations are being put in place to ensure the safety of all citizens in case of a pandemic? Two, we know that St. Martin is part of the Pan American Health Organization and, by extension, the World Health Organization. What's your association with CAFA?
Okay. We have the World Health Organization. We are in good contact with the World Health Organization, and of course, we are following the guidelines. As you could read in the newspaper this morning, the Minister of ESA, Minister Brugge, already made a statement about the human metapneumovirus, the human metapneumovirus. And until now, there are no indications for panic. That is very important. We are following the developments in the world. We are following the guidelines of the World Health Organization, for example. At the moment that there is any indication or any request or any instruction given by the World Health Organization that we have to take any measure, of course, that is going to be taken to protect our people of our country. But until now, there are no indications for panic in St. Martin.
The possibility of establishing a special fund to deal with the possibility of establishing a special fund, as is advocating by the Member of Parliament, De Wever, in case of a pandemic, and of course your affiliation with CAFA.
At the moment there is a natural disaster, the budget of the country is being reconsidered for the people of a country to survive any natural disaster that are confronting them at that particular moment. So if money has to come free to save lives in our country, don't worry with that. We will handle it as we have handled all the disasters in the past. We're going to give priority again to our budget because that becomes main priority for the country in case we encounter a natural disaster in our country. So don't worry about that.
Your affiliation with CAFA?
Pardon? I do not know the last information because I'm not the Minister of ESA. I follow it, of course, first because of my background, and of course I'm the Prime Minister leading the government. But the last details of the PAVA I'm not aware of at this particular moment, so I cannot give you a direct answer on that one.
Thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister Marcelina, for your opening statements and question and answer session. We will now like to bid you a pleasant day. And I would also like to now invite the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, Melissa Gums, to address you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. To those joining us online and to the press here in the room, and as well to echo the sentiments of the Prime Minister and wish everyone a safe and prosperous and healthy 2025. I have two critical updates stemming from the Ministry of ECYS for you today. The first being the 2% indexation for subsidized school teachers. The 2% indexation is expected to be disbursed at the end of January. While this was not the original objective, upon swearing in, I was informed that the advices had not been finalized as yet, and I made it a priority to have that happen so that I could sign off and move the process along. Unfortunately, the timeline between swearing in, budget handling in Central Committee, and then the holidays was all a bit squashed together, so we couldn't meet the original target. However, it is my intention to ensure that moving forward, there is a greater priority to have these processes improved and made more efficient so that we don't have these types of delays in the future. I want to also note that once the funds are disbursed to the school boards, it's their responsibility to make sure that subsidized teachers receive it in a timely manner, and I will do my utmost best to follow up to make sure that that happens. Secondly, regarding the Prince William Alexander School, I want to just give some history and context to that. Upon assuming office, I was immediately faced with that ongoing dispute at Prince William Alexander, called PWAS for short. The situation at PWAS is indeed a multifaceted issue that involves challenges that extend beyond the school's internal operations, and it cannot be resolved in isolation. As the only special education institution on St. Martin, the school has been at the center of escalating conflicts for quite some time. What began as a single personnel matter has now evolved into a broader dispute involving the entire management team. These conflicts have not only damaged professional relationships, but it also created an atmosphere of mistrust and dysfunction that has deeply affected the school. As a result, the institution's ability to function effectively has been significantly compromised, placing staff, but most importantly, students and their families in a precarious and uncertain position. Of course, over the last few years, the situation has attracted media attention, even calling with Y2 asking for immediate action to resolve the matter. To address these issues, I've authorized an independent investigation to examine concerns related to student handling and management disputes. The investigation is estimated to take approximately 4 weeks to conclude. Following that, I will review the findings of the investigation and take appropriate steps with their recommendations and potential solutions to ensure that the best interests of these our most vulnerable students at the institution are prioritized. The future of those students depends on the decisions that I make, and we collectively as a government make to support their development and restore stability to the school, which remains my priority. I also want to note that any questions regarding placement of personnel, etc., cannot be answered until I have the full concluded report from the investigation.
Thank you,
Oh,
Minister.
sorry. And as one note, just as a happier note, a congratulations as well to NSI, the Rao Illich Sports Complex. The track has a soft launch tomorrow that I will be attending. So I just want to extend my congratulations to everyone that worked on that project to restore the track and improve the track, actually, to make it more compliant with regional code when it comes to athletics. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Gums, for your opening remarks. We would now like to open the floor, and Bibi Hart Shaw of SMA News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Relaika. Good morning, Minister. As you talk about the PWAS as the situation there and the retraction of the decision taken by the former minister, I managed to get a hand on your letter that was sent to the school, and I noticed that at least one of the persons that were removed in management, no mention was made. After receiving that report, we believe it's the entire team will be reevaluated as to whether or not they will be replaced to the school or moved to some other school. Another thing I'd like to ask you, Minister, as we are dealing with the PWAS as well as MLK that is also housed at that building. There was a contractor who was given a contract to either construct or repair the both schools. Can you tell us what's the status of the repairs of the both MLK, which is Martin Luther King, as well as PWAS?
Thank you, Bibi. Regarding the letter for retractions, there was an incorrect move that was done, and that is what has been retracted based on the level of the individual concerned. Further to that, in terms of evaluations, etc., I do have to wait for the conclusion of the independent investigation to actually see what the recommendations and solutions are so that we can move forward in a way that is most beneficial for the students. Regarding MLK, I have an update pending on that. We are, of course, starting budget coming Monday, so next week is pretty much a dead week. So I'm hoping to get an update this Friday. And as for the Prince William Alexander campus in Retreat Estate, this is something that I have also asked about when I was on the other side of the aisle. And I'm hoping in the MLK update to receive that similar update with that, because I do find it a priority to move Prince William Alexander to its own campus whenever that timeline can be completed.
Sorry. My question is if there will be 2 rounds of questions or just the one?
That's depending on
Okay,
time.
So, Minister, just a clarification. You talk about setting up an independent investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain what that body who are the participants, or what that body consists of that allows them to be independent?
Mm-hmm.
What authorities do they have? And are they getting the cooperation that they need in order to produce that report?
Yes. I can't reveal who it's going to be, but they are going to be external consultants. They're not related to the school. in any way, shape, or form. And this is also why the decision has been made that the persons related to the investigation cannot be in the environment while the investigation is happening. That is how it will remain independent, but they will have the full cooperation of the the Division of Public Education and Prince William Alexander moving forward.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Emil. Judy Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Minister. Good morning. Also sticking on the issue of special needs education, there was a policy that was put in place by the last government, a special needs policy. I'd like to know if you can give us an indication as to when that policy can be enacted and whether you plan to tweak it or alter it in any way as you are the new minister. And I would also like to know if you can give us an insight, you're the new minister, as to what your priorities are for education. What can we expect from you in this portfolio?
Thank you, Judy. Regarding the special needs education policy, upon taking office, I asked for an update on that specifically. SOAB was conducting a report to identify an implementation roadmap for the policy that was supposed to be completed by the end of December 2024. So I've asked for an update if it has been completed, and then moving forward, we will see what SOAB's roadmap says. In terms of changes to the policy, there are some that I am contemplating, but I have to see how we can do that in a manner that is quick but also effective and efficient. And about priorities, I think I've spoken pretty publicly that my focus is to improve the quality of education, the efficiency of the ministry, but also to restore trust in this ministry. I think the last 4 years have yielded a serious lack of trust in the ministry's capability to protect not just teachers and teaching assistants, but primarily students. That is the feedback that I've gotten from that demographic. And as I've said in my inaugural address, they are the clients of this ministry, so they are indeed my main priority. Further to that, on a topical perspective, literacy and numeracy. Coming from private sector, I've witnessed how our literacy in young persons looking for jobs has declined. I've heard it from my former colleagues in private sector from different areas as well. So that is something that I'm deeply passionate about. And numeracy, around the region, we see that math grades are dropping, especially with CXC, even in countries where we are accustomed of seeing very fantastical passing rates with mathematics, Guyana, Barbados, etc. So also working with the schools to improve those two particular topics is one of my priorities.
Just a quick follow-up, Minister. You said you are contemplating some change to the policy. Can you give us an indication as to what those potential changes are?
I'll give you one of the most,
Thank you.
I think, controversial changes. So it was told to me that initially there was a inclusion for the special needs education policy where these students would be introduced to comprehensive sex education. As the most vulnerable students, they are most at risk for sexual abuse. For example, if you are 16, special needs, cognitively, you may be 6. Physically, you are 16. But I think we need to really face ourselves in the mirror and focus on the reality that it may be one thing physically, but mentally it's another. And that is how you end up in situations where special needs students or former students are being abused and taken advantage of within the community. And it's my priority to prevent that from happening. So I'm hoping to see that we can make an addition to the policy when it comes to that. But of course, that has to have a whole curriculum developed behind it as well. So it's something, like I said, I'm contemplating.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Judy. As Stephen Sterlian does not have any questions for the Minister of Education, we will move on to the second round. Bibi, you have the floor.
Minister, as I can see, you start with making changes or doing what you deemed necessary. For example, the retraction and having an independent investigation done at PUAS. And indeed, there have been a long history of complaints and things going on there. Are you considering doing the same thing for DPE? The head of DPE was appointed, I don't know based on what procedures. Are you contemplating making some retraction there and ensuring that this department function? Because one of the things that you're getting from many of the elementary schools is the lack of attention from DPE. Complaints are being filed, nothing is done. Especially, for example, PUAS, an investigation was supposed to take place there months before, and it never happened. So are you
so I
planning
think-
to make some changes at DPE?
No, thank you for the question, Bibi. I think it's also important to note that, and this is what I have discovered, and this is not to cast aspersions on any one former minister in particular or so, but ultimately, when things get to a certain level and they are not handled, a decision is not taken, it's very difficult to say it is a division that is at fault. Things may be escalated, and indeed, I myself have had to sign on things that have been sitting on a desk since March of 2024. And that is just a lack of decision making and a lack of decisive action, I think. And it's not my intention to continue that trend. If in the future, there's a need to review whatever has been done in the past, it will happen. Right now, my focus is on improving the efficiency of every division and department, and also identifying where the bottlenecks are with their deficiencies. It does not necessarily mean it's people. It could be a process thing. And so that's what we're focusing on, especially in this first month of 2025.
Thank you, Minister. Emily, you have the floor.
Minister, I have a question. Parliament has formed an ad hoc committee on electoral reform. There's an article in the paper today from the Daily Herald that also refers to a report from the Integrity Chamber. PFP, one of the things, and we've spoken about this before as a deal breaker, was about the screening of cabinet members. I'm just looking at the government website, and there's still ministries that have not identified who their cabinet makers are. But you had mentioned in the past that adding the screening of cabinet members would be something that you would bring up or see that that happens in this electoral reform process. So can you explain, as a follow-up to that old question and the activities of this ad hoc committee on electoral reform, what you're doing to ensure that that happens now?
So I think that's a question maybe for MP Peterson and MP De Wever, but the Electoral Reform Committee in Parliament was established quite some time ago. It's been there since I think we became a country, I believe. I've previously served as vice chair of that committee while in Parliament. The screening, the packet of electoral reform that they're talking about right now deals more with the screening law pertaining to the screening of ministers. For us, we've always said that we believe cabinet staff should have a high level of integrity. To establish a screening process for them is something that definitely government has to do. For myself, I've communicated the names of who my cabinet staff are, and I think it's on the webpage for my ministry. But I will encourage my colleague ministers to put their staff on there as well. I thought it was just a general email, but I'm usually quicker with emails than everybody else. So, but definitely, I think that in the future, that is something you have to look at. But when it comes to Parliament, that particular process is primarily focused on certain status of electoral reform when it comes to our electoral process and indeed the screening of candidate ministers. So that's what I remember from the last few months before swearing in.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Emil. Judy, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Minister, I'd like to ask you a question as it relates to compulsory education. Currently, the law dictates that all children should start school at the age of 4. Now, if there is a case where there is a child or children who learns differently, act differently, may have special needs, the system is set up where they are required to enter into the regular education system, and at the age of 7, if it is deemed necessary, then they go to the special needs school that we have. I would like to know, what should a parent do if their 4-year-old is denied access to education at the age of 4 because they learn or act differently?
So that's against the law. I received a similar question, not necessarily with special needs in mind, but from MP Duran in the Budget Central Committee regarding the age, when you're born after a certain time. But the law says you have to start school at 4. So that's against the law. I just want to make that very clear for any institution that may be listening in. Even to when it comes to your date of birth, my answer to MP Duran was essentially that that was a policy that was started by a school board, and the rest just kind of ran with it. So as we continue to improve the communication of the ministry, it's my intention when I meet with the school boards to say that this cannot continue because the law says this. You cannot make a policy that then contravenes with the law. Regarding the need for special needs children to enter general education first, it is a matter of testing. And it's good that you asked this question because the intention of Division Public Education is to now come with a research-based proposal that will identify the steps we need to take to maybe have it so that the testing can begin earlier, and then you can flow into special needs education at a younger age. So there's no need for that time gap in general education before you can transition to PWAS or so. But ultimately as well, the special needs education policy takes into consideration the fact that we have one special needs school on the island, so you need to also improve the level of all other schools, subsidized and public, so that they're able to accommodate students who are maybe on a less severe end of the spectrum and can function in a general education environment with some additional attention. So all of that is going to be part of SOA-based roadmap as well, and the research being done by DPE.
Thank you for that. So what should parents who are facing that right now, what should they do?
I would say to report such a thing to the ministry, to inspectorate, because it's against the law. You cannot stop students because you feel you cannot handle their entry into your school. The law says 4 years old. It does not make any differentiation, and you cannot, as an institution, make your own policy that contravenes with the law.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, members of the media. This does bring us to the end of the question and answer session. Any further questions can be sent to the Minister's Cabinet in writing. Honorable Minister of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. For rebroadcast, tune in to stmartingov.org. St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, Tel TV Plus Channel 15, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, and the YouTube channel Government of St. Martin. For video on demand, log on to the Government of St. Martin's YouTube channel. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Relaika Roach and wishing you a happy and prosperous New Year and a pleasant day further.